Hey everyone, welcome to the Torvus podcast. I got a special podcast for you all. I'm joined by my very good friend, professional wrestler, all around amazing human being, Mike Mizerski, all the way from back east, and otherwise known as Jon Atlas. And he is here. So John, hey, John, I'm already in your wrestling thing. Mike, why don't you do a promo for me? Like, how would you enter? How would you get on the camera? And what would you say? Like, just to blow it up.
It's me, the relentless Jon Atlas, coming in 6'2", 225 pounds, solid muscle. Mr. Can't Stop, Won't Stop, all the way to the top.
There we go. Love it. So Mike and I have known each other for a long time. We started bouncing together way back when. He has a fascinating story that I want to share with you. One that could be made a movie. I already told him that before the cameras came on. And before we get into that, let's just start, because this episode is going to be about professional wrestling, specifically in the 1980s. I'm going to throw some trivia at Mike to see if he gets it. And I mean, a lot of us grew up with the WWF in the 1980s, Stampede Wrestling. Some really great stuff came out of that era, especially for pro wrestling. I would say the 80s is what blew it up. I mean, you know, you had the 50s, 60s, and 70s. It was working the way, but when the 80s hit, that was the era. So, Mike, let's just start. Like, what's your fascination with wrestling, and how did it start with you?
I was probably 5 years old, and I had gone to the movie store with my mom, and I was just looking around the movie store, and I happened to stumble across the wrestling section, and I saw Hulk Hogan on the cover, and I saw this big guy in a yellow and red shirt, huge muscles, and I was like, oh, okay, what is this about? And I wanted to have it, and my mom was like, no, you can't watch that. And I threw a temper tantrum because I wanted to rent the movie, and she wouldn't let me. And then she ended up, taking me by the ear, taking me home. And then she put me down for a nap, but she ended up going back and renting the video for me. Nice. And then coming back. And ever since I saw it, I was hooked.
Awesome. And so during that time, was Hulk Hogan like your favorite, just like most kids?
Yeah, Hulk Hogan was my guy. As a kid growing up, I ate my vitamins, said my prayers, and I was doing push-ups, sit-ups. I was a Hulkamaniac through and through.
So did you end up watching any other kind of wrestling promotions like Stampede Wrestling or anything like that?
I was so naive to anything else wrestling related. I was just WWF or WWE, all the way probably until like in the late 90s. I knew of WCW, but I didn't know the history of WCW or the NWA or AWA or anything like that. Because all I got growing up was WWF. Right. That's all that was broadcasted.
And so how does someone get into professional wrestling? I mean, I kind of know the story, but most people don't. It's like, do you just answer an ad in the paper, or like, what does it entail?
I was lucky enough at the time when I was looking into it. So there's different avenues you can go into looking into getting trained to become a professional wrestler. The way I did it was I took the same approach I did with football. And when I was getting recruited to go to university, I wanted to go to the university where I was going to be the best coached at my position that would get me ready for the next level of professional football. So I took the same approach with wrestling. Am I going to go to a guy that hasn't really been where I want to go, or hasn't really done what I want to do and just fork over money to him? Or am I going to go to a guy like a Lance Storm, who's been trained, who's been to the WWE, been to WCW, been to the top, former Intercontinental Champion, former Tag Team Champion, and learn from a guy like him? And that's what I ended up doing. I ended up looking at his website, and I went down there to go visit just to make sure it was legit. Because you hear you hear stories all the time of people saying they'll train you, but it's not really legit. Like some other person will come in and train you. But it was great because it was Lance Storm, hands-on training. He was in the training classes with you every day, 4 hours a day.
What's his training school called, and where is it?
It was called Storm Wrestling Academy. It recently just shut down. Okay. He shut down because he took a job with WWE, and he was going to be on the road a lot, and then he couldn't train. But he was hands down one of the best trainers. He was in the ring with us. The first 2 weeks, it was awesome because it was like a weeding out period. So he's just going to run you to the ground for the first 2 weeks to see like who's in shape, and who can handle it. And if you're not in shape, a lot of people ended up quitting. So my class started with 25 kids. Yeah. Or there's 25 of us. By the end of the class, there were 7.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you ended up taking that training, and then you're on the independent circuit doing stuff back east. But you ended up going down to the WWE Trial Center, or what's it called?
The WWE Performance Center.
Yeah. So tell me about that. What was that like?
Oh my God, that was insane. It's the mecca for pro wrestling. It's the place where you want to be when you want to become a professional wrestler. They have everything and anything there. They have 7, I think it's six rings, with coaches that you watch growing up on TV, and just state-of-the-art facility with the top-of-the-line workout equipment, top-of-the-line coaches, nutritionists. They had a promo room, which was like a green room where you just go and you cut promos. And that's where talents go, like for 2 hours of a day, every day, you go and you cut promos. Mm-hmm. It's like anything. It's in a way it's like jujitsu. The only way you're going to get better at it is if you consistently do it again and again and again. Same thing with promos. Same thing with wrestling. The more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. And you're down there with coaches that they want to see what you have, and they want to see you at your best.
So can a wrestler today just get through wrestling just being a wrestler, or do you have to be able to cut promos?
You have to be able to talk. It comes with the package. For me, the total package is you have to have a look. 2, you have to be able to cut a promo. And 3 is like how can you engage the audience? How does the audience react with you, and how do you react with them?
And have you been, so are you a heel right now, or are you a babyface? What are you?
I'm a babyface, but like I'm trying right now. Like, so when I first started wrestling, I wrestled under the Playboy moniker. Yeah. I used to be kind of like a throwback to a ravishing Rick Rude. And that's how I kind of got my feet wet, and I was comfortable doing that. But now I've changed that, and I've gone to the Relentless John Atlas, just kind of going to more my true to life story, and just be me. Just go out there and, let my true to life story kind of take over. And it's funny because like I'll go out and wrestle, and sometimes when the crowd sees me, or if people haven't seen me or they're seeing me for the first time, they see these scars on my back, and they're like, oh my God, what happened to him? Oh my God. And then like, you'll hear word of mouth kind of trickle through the fans. oh, he battled cancer, or oh, he did this, or he did that.
And so I want to talk about that. So I'm going to actually throw up a picture of your back where the scars are and stuff like that. But let's just go back. So people don't really know your story. So you and I bounced together. We had a fabulous time. Those are memories that I will never forget. Probably the best, of the 18 years that I ended up doing the door, that was that period with you and Oz and us. And I loved it, Mike. It was fun going to work, and we had some great times. Now, in 2012, you were shot in a drive-by shooting at the nightclub that we were working at. And that started a whole cascade of events in your life. You end up, you recovered from that. We're going to talk about the shooting. You ended up getting cancer. You've had multiple surgeries. So let's just start back. Let's talk about the night, that night when you end up getting shot, and then we'll move forward from there. Are you cool with that?
Yep, no problem.
Okay, so tell me your experience. You're working the door, you're having a good time. We're laughing and we're always having a good time. And then there's that serious incident that happens at the nightclub where we end up kicking someone out and a drive-by shooting happens. So kind of tell me your thoughts.
Were you working that night? You were.
Yep, I was. Yeah, it's funny what you remember and you don't. I was at the top of the stairs and I had turned around and I'd walked down. And the moment I had walked down, that's when the shooting happened.
But were you inside? You weren't on the nightclub for most. You were inside, were you not?
I was outside talking to Brass at the time. And so the video, and the three of you guys were up there. And the moment I turned down and came down the stairs, that's when the shot started.
Right. But I would say maybe, let's go 20 minutes before that. It was you and me upstairs in the office. We were talking, and then over the radio we hear, hey, we got to get this guy out, he's falling asleep in the bar.
Right.
And we're like, I remember saying specifically to Brass, I'm like, can you handle it? And he was like, we kind of want you to come here. And then I looked at you and you looked at me and you're like, you just go. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll go.
Yeah.
So I went downstairs, and by the time I got downstairs to the front door, they were already escorting the gentleman out.
Yeah.
No, they were escorting the girlfriend out. Yes. And when I got there, she came to the top of the stairs and she was swinging and kicking. And I was just like, let her go. And they let her go. And she started kicking and punching me. And I just kind of stood there, took it. And I was like, okay, are you done? She's like, yeah. And then I was like, can you please stand on the other side of the rope? I was like, can you just tell me what happened? And she's like, yo, they're throwing my boyfriend out for no reason, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, let's just, relax. We'll try and figure out what's going on. I'm like, I'm new, like, just trying to talk to me. And I'm trying to calm her down. And then I guess it was Brass, Chino, and was it yourself dealing with the other guy up the street?
They kicked him out. It was Brass. I think it wasn't, I didn't deal with him directly, but it was Brass in particular. And yeah, I remember them kicking them out. And then I remember him doing the whole pointing thing and pulling out money. Remember, he's like, you don't know who I am. Like, I'm a baller.
Yes. He was like, you don't know who I am. But like, none of that was directed at me personally.
Right.
None of it was like, because I remember I talked to him and I was just like, sorry, we can't let you back in. It's unfortunate. And none of that was directed at me. And He pulled out his money. He's like, you don't know who you're fucking with, blah, blah, blah. Excuse my language. But he was like, he's like, I'm going to come back. I'm going to shoot this place up. And you've worked the door longer than I have. And you've heard those stories probably thousands of times.
Yeah.
And like, I've heard them too, but 9 times out of 10, guys don't usually come back. Yeah. And so maybe 5 minutes go by and I had just finished talking to, what's the officer's name? Red.
Yeah.
Cause he was on shift.
Yeah.
And he came by and I was talking with him and he was asking me, he's like, oh, what's going on? And I told him what had happened with the guy up the street. He had just left. Jamal was at one end, or Cobalt was at one end. I was at the top. Liz turned to me, said she was going to go throw out the trash. I said, okay, cool. No problem. She goes to throw out the trash. I guess you had gone down the stairs. Bobby was in the middle.
Yep.
And then I hear what I thought was fireworks going off. And I hear pop, pop. And I was like, who's firing off fireworks in the middle of the street? And I look up the street towards, what would it be towards?
You're looking north on Douglas there.
Yes, I was looking up north towards us, and I didn't see anything. And then I look back, and I can see I see the car coming, and I just remember making eyes with Jamal, and both our eyes were just like, "Oh shit!" Like it's about to get real.
Yeah.
And so that's when the drive-by, we started hearing shots fired, and Jamal had ran in. Bobby was going in, and I remember because I was a bigger guy and I didn't want to turn my back to the door because I thought if I turn my back to the door, I get shot in the back because it was a bigger target.
Yeah.
So I remember I ran to the door and I kind of I guess I dove inside the door and I got hit right in the leg as soon as I got in. And I thought that I dove down the stairs. I thought that I just went down the stairs. Yep. News to me was that Jamal actually came back for me, grabbed me, and pulled me to the bottom.
Yes.
And I remember screaming, I'm like, I'm shot, I'm shot, I'm shot. Everybody get down, everybody get down, I'm shot. And the music was still going. And then Olivier, the bartender, he was like, what is happening? And because he was working the bar at the bottom of the stairs and he was like, what is going on? And he couldn't believe it. And then I didn't panic. Everyone else, and then once everyone else started knowing what was kind of going on, I was trying not to panic.
Yeah.
And I was like, gotta stay cool, gotta stay calm.
Yep.
And I remember when I was at the bottom of the stairs, I could still move my leg. And I kept moving my leg in a circular motion. And I was like, okay, it can't be that bad. It can't be that bad. If I can still move my leg, it can't be that bad. And that was kind of like a saving grace for me. And I was moving my leg around. And then it kind of started to calm down. And then I remember you going to the top you had come by and you were going back up to the top of the stairs. And you and me kind of just locked eyes. And you just kind of nodded at me, and I nodded back at you, I knew you were on top of it. I knew okay, Ari's on top of it. Ari's gonna figure this out. Everything's gonna be okay.
So when the bullet hit you, what would you describe that sensation like?
I would say intense heat. It felt like my leg and my testicles were on fire.
So here's the thing. The bullet didn't exactly go in and out in a straight line, did it?
No.
It zigzagged.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the path the bullet took.
So it went through my hamstring, through the other side of my hamstring, singed my right testicle, through it didn't get my left side, then it went I guess going through there, and then it hit my left inner side of my thigh, and from what I was told, it hit my cell phone, and because I had my cell phone in my pocket.
Yeah, I remember.
That's what stopped it.
Yeah,
from going through the other side of my leg.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, bullet comes in, zigzags, ends up getting lodged in the phone, and I wish I took a picture of the phone because I remember pulling it out of your back pocket. Pretty crazy, and you recovered pretty quick from that, I have to say. Just a guy getting shot. The next couple of days you're on crutches and just moving around and stuff like that. So the shooter, for the people who don't know, he was caught. He was on the lam for 3 days. That was an interesting thing. So they couldn't find him. And then they eventually did, and he was arrested and thrown in jail for 9 years type of thing. So after that happened, obviously that changes people's perception on working the door and how things are. There's an innocence that is lost, right? And I always knew, I'd seen a lot of violence on the door, so had you. But again, 9 out of 10 times, it's always this. You don't have to think anything of it. And then obviously this happened. So it was definitely a change for sure. I do recall, though, when the shooting did happen, so it was something like 13 or 15 shots that the guy ended up doing. And there's people outside smoking where Liz was. If she was still there, she would have definitely been shot because there was a bullet that went right through there. So it was just by happenstance that she got up to leave to go empty the garbage or whatever. And yep. It's crazy that all those bullets that got sprayed, it wasn't just one bullet, didn't hit anyone. I mean, obviously it hit you. I remember watching the video too of bullets hitting the front of the door and you know, that kind of shattering, that movie like splintering thing happening. Pretty crazy event for sure. So let's fast forward. So you end up eventually retiring from the bouncing business, as do I. I go into law enforcement and you go into this kind of professional wrestling thing, something you've always wanted to do. I remember working the door with you, Mike, and you would cut promos and I would just fucking have me in stitches. It was awesome. So if anyone was going to be a pro wrestler, it's going to be you. So you end up going through the process. You start working the circuit and you get diagnosed with cancer. When was that? What year?
2016.
Okay. What kind of cancer was it?
At first, it was testicular cancer, stage 3 testicular cancer.
Okay. Do you think that the bullet had anything to do with that?
I believe it did. Yeah.
Okay. I always thought about that. I'm like, you know, foreign objects, trauma. I don't know.
So what had happened was, like, after I got shot, it had singed my right testicle, but like nothing, like it didn't. It was still there, still good and everything like that. And I remember like my right testicle it kind of got a little hard. And then eventually it just started growing like bigger and bigger. And when it started growing, that's when I went to go get it checked out. And that's when I found out that I was diagnosed. So it just so happens like the right testicle that was shot was also the one that was removed and also the one that was cancer and formed testicular cancer. So I think in my personal opinion, I think it all played a part.
So you get diagnosed with stage 3 testicular cancer. They end up doing surgery. Do you do chemo or radiation at that time?
So I did 3 months of chemotherapy, but what they had found out was when they tested me, it was so the cancer had spread to my lungs, and it wasn't lung cancer. It was still considered testicular cancer, but it was when they removed my testicle, what they found was it was 95% teratoma, 5% cancer. Okay. And teratomas, like if they're left alone, they can turn into a cancer. So not good to be in your lungs. Okay. So even they put me on the chemotherapy to kill, I guess, whatever other cancers might be in my body. But chemotherapy doesn't work on teratomas. It doesn't shrink a teratoma. It doesn't change it. There's really no effect on a teratoma. So that being said, it was just like, in my head, I was just like, well, if it's 95% teratoma, why don't I just skip the chemotherapy altogether, do the surgeries and go? But the medical opinion is you do the chemotherapy first, then you go in and do the surgeries. Okay. So then I had to have, I had surgery. I had my first surgery, which was done on my right side, and that removed probably 20 tumors off my right side of my lung. Okay. the biggest one being the size of a baseball on my right side. And going into that and just going through that surgery, like there's nothing you can do to prepare for a lung surgery. You kind of have to go in, just whatever happens. So it was supposed to be a routine surgery, and normally these surgeries are 3 hours. My surgery took 6.5, 7 hours. Okay. And the reason my surgery took so long is because I had so much muscle on my back that it took them forever to cut through my back. So I was forever jacked, and they couldn't get through all the muscle.
Love it.
And I even remember my surgeon saying to me, she was just like, to peel back your skin, it's just quite amazing. Like, you can see all the muscle fibers and everything like that. She was like, it's so cool to see. And I was just like, yeah, that's my back.
So that was surgery 1.
Yeah, but also doing surgery 1, I almost didn't make it. So I did surgery 1, and I came out and I was fine. And like, you're having to train yourself to breathe all over again.
Okay.
And it's such a weird concept because you take breathing for granted because like you know how to breathe and everything's fine. But taking a deep breath, oh my God, I was in so much pain. And when you first come out, you're told you have to take deep breaths. But I was taking really short breaths. And because I kept taking short breaths because it hurt, and whatever pain medication they were giving me just wasn't working. They're like, oh, put a pillow beside your ribs and like this will help. That doesn't help. It was just like a pain that I've never felt before. So I kept taking these small breaths. Anyways, the night goes by. Nurse comes to check on me in the morning, and every morning they check your vitals. So when the nurse checked on me in the morning, she checked my oxygen, and my oxygen was at like 50%. And she's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I feel fine. And I'm like, I was the way I am talking to you now.
Yeah.
And she's like, something's not right. Like, checks the vitals again, and it was like 50%. And then she's like, oh God. Then this whole team of doctors comes rushing in.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening was through the night, I wasn't taking deep breaths. I just kept taking these short breaths. And what I had done is I closed off the lower part of my lung. I just closed it off because I was only taking short breaths. I wasn't taking deep breaths to make it expand and get bigger. And so what they ended up having to do is they put me on a ventilator, and I had to have a ventilator on me all day. And like, I was just pumping oxygen into me to expand my lung to make sure that I could breathe. Couldn't eat all day. They had to do that. Did that. And then once they did that, it was like, okay, you have to really focus on taking these deep breaths and kind of go from there. So that was surgery number 1.
When you were on the ventilator, was it painful?
No, it was like, I felt like Darth Vader.
Okay. Got it.
So like I had this ventilator on me, and it was like, when I was breathing, I was like, and so like, I was tired, and like, I personally hate needles, and I hate getting my blood taken and everything like that. And they had to consistently come in and take my blood and do needles. And eventually got to the point where I just didn't care. I was like, yeah, whatever, do what you got to do. Cause I was so tired, and I was just like, I was almost done fighting it. But then they put the ventilator on. It sucked having it on all day. Yeah. Once it was off, I was good to go.
So were you wrestling prior to your cancer?
Yes.
And you got diagnosed, you're out. How long are you out of commission for?
So I got diagnosed in August, and then I had 3 months of chemotherapy.
Yeah.
Because like it was unsure whether or not I was going to have to do surgeries or not, because they didn't know, like maybe the teratomas will go away, maybe they'll shrink. They didn't know. And then but as I was doing the chemotherapies, I still went to the gym. Like I didn't go as often, but I was still going to the gym. I was still working out. But the biggest thing that took a hit for me was my cardio. My cardiovascular just went to crap. And it was because the lungs, the chemotherapies that they were giving me specifically affected my lungs. And it was like to go for like a jog. I could jog for 20 seconds before I was huffing and puffing.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, what is happening to me? So I did that. I did that for 3 months. And then they gave me like Christmas off. But at Christmas time, there was 2 wrestling shows like that were kind of going on. And I was booked. I booked myself on 2 wrestling shows. So I'd say probably I finished my chemotherapy in November, and then I did 2 shows in December. And the one show I did, I came out dressed as Santa Claus, and people were like, oh, you know, who's the Santa Claus? And it was in Barrie, Ontario. And I had kind of made a name for myself in Barrie, Ontario, and I had a strong fan base out there.
Yeah.
To the point where like it was so cool because it was the first time I've ever seen like a little kid dressed up as me. So he had like a Playboy jacket, and like I was his favorite wrestler, and so I was just like, that's cool. So then I came out as Santa Claus, and then to another wrestler, and he was running down Santa over the holidays. And then as the wrestler turns his back, I take off the hat, and then you see the bald head, and people are like, wait, who's this? And I take off the beard and all the get up, and they're like, oh my God, it's Playboy. And then like the crowd, all 200 people going crazy. But it was an awesome moment because I had my fiance in the crowd with her family, and my fiance didn't know what I was doing. And I remember like when I came by as Santa Claus, I was handing out candy canes to everybody, and like I kept messing with her, and she was just like, why does this Santa Claus keep messing with me? She didn't know what I was doing on the show. And then when I came out as Santa, when I took off the Santa outfit, she's like, oh my God. And then like after I have the match with the guy, and you know, 1, 2, 3, people were literally crying in the crowd. Yeah. I go around and I do the hand slap and everything like that. Yeah. But people were crying and just overwhelmed with emotion.
So that's your return. Did you transition from Playboy to Relentless? When did that happen?
That happened. So I had been doing it, and then I continued to do the Playboy. And then what it was called, I had sat down and I was talking with my wife. Yeah. And my wife, who watched wrestling like in the 90s, and that's how we kind of like met each other, was not really through wrestling. It was just like one of my friends was like, oh, you know, you better not mess with him, he's a wrestler. And she's like, oh yeah, I'll lay him out with some sweet chin music. And I was like, what? You know wrestling terminology? Who are you?
Yeah.
So that's how we kind of met. But anyways, my wife and I were talking, and she looked at John Cena and how much of a polarizing figure John Cena is, and how simple it is. Like he doesn't really have, he's just your overall good guy. And his slogan is just never give up. And, you know, he comes out every day, and he goes hard every day, and, you know, kids love him, and he's just so over. Mm-hmm. And she looked at him and she said, you, with your story and everything that you've been through, she goes, you're John Cena. You're the next John Cena. And she's like, if people knew exactly what you've gone through and everything like that. And just, like that's you. They can send you out to schools or to Make-A-Wish foundations because you've been through what these kids are going through. And you've come out on the other side. Like, you're such an inspiration to so many people, because a lot of people have been touched by cancer throughout their lives. They know somebody or have a family member that's gone through it. And just to kind of look at me and see that what I've gone through and how I persevered through it. She was just like, Playboy was good, but she's like, you need to become like, you just never stopped. You never gave up. You never quit. You went to the gym. And then we were kind of playing around with names. And then I said Relentless. And then she was just like, yeah, that's it. You're the Relentless John Atlas.
Love it. So you have the surgery, you go through all that stuff, and everything's a-okay, right? The cancer's gone.
So I had 2 surgeries. They knew they were going to have to do 2 surgeries, but I did 2 surgeries, and then I did another. So I did a surgery in January, and then I had another one in March, and then I was
again?
Sorry?
On your lungs again?
Yeah. So I had to do my right. So it was a right thoracotomy and then a left thoracotomy.
Okay.
So both on my lungs. Like, I never had to get any of my actual lung removed.
Yes.
They were able to go in and remove everything that was able to be removed without damaging any of my lungs,
okay,
which was great. So then, yes, I go through 2 surgeries, and then it was end of March, but like, it's end of March, and I start, like, me, I start training right away, and they're like, you have to take it easy. Don't do anything like you can't go to the gym. You can't lift anything over 50 pounds. I'm like, 50 pounds? Come on. And they're just like, no, honestly, like I'm like, okay, whatever. So like, I finished my surgery in March, and I'm like, I'm going to the gym, but in that time, I'm just walking on the treadmill. So I start off with walking on the treadmill, and like, I'm doing that for it took me 15 minutes to do a mile at that time, like just straight walking.
Yeah.
And I would do that, and then I would incorporate a little bit of a jog, and then I would do a little bit of weights. And like, I just wanted to see where I was at with everything, like what my muscle memory was, what I could still do. And so like, I remember like I put a plate on the bench press, and I could still do that quite easily. And I was like, 50 pounds, like they're saying 50 pounds for the average male. And I'm like, I'm not the average male. I'm not some brittle old man. Like, yeah. I'm young. I can still go. And so like, I'm lifting a little heavy. I'm lifting heavier than 50 pounds. So I remember I had put on 225, and I was just like, 225 was just always the benchmark for me. Like, if I can push 225 for a set of 10, like, I still have my strength.
Yeah.
And I remember I lifted it off and banged out like 8 or 9 reps. And then I just racked it. And I was like, oh yeah, feeling good about myself. Well, this is awesome. And then I had to go for my follow-up with my doctor.
Uh-huh.
And then I tell my doctor, I'm just like, I'm in the gym, and I'm bench pressing 225. And he's just like, what? And then I'm just like, yeah. And he's just like, you shouldn't be doing that. And I'm like, why not? And he's just like, you could collapse your lung. And I was just like, oh, didn't think about that.
Well, you didn't have that information.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Okay. So you've had the surgery on the lungs. Did they have to go in again to your lungs?
Yes. So what ended up, so I do the surgeries, and then I had to, on my right, was it my right? No, it was my left side. My left side, they started, there was a couple of small lesions that had grown back.
Yeah.
And they're just like, it's better that we'll monitor them over the next 3 months. So I was going for 3-month follow-ups, and, like, it's not impeding you in what you're doing or anything like that, but we'll just monitor it. And it's better to get them removed than to have them stay in there. And if they form into anything, it's just bad. So it's better to get them out. So I'm like, okay. Eventually I had to get the surgery done, but now, like, I'm structured to what the surgery is and how I'm going to feel. So I'm more prepared this time because I've been through it twice already. So now I'm going for my third surgery, and this is on my left side, and they're going to cut me open. So they cut me open again. They go in and they remove some lesions.
So, Mike, I have a question before you go on.
Yeah.
Are they cutting open like this again? Or do they have, really, not a small incision? They can't just go in with a little tube and fuck.
No, unfortunately not. Same length, same size. But this, like, when I went in this time, I had, like, for whatever reason, I had the head surgeon of Toronto General. He was going to be the one that was operating on me, because my surgeon was operating on somebody else.
Okay.
And so I was just like, okay, like, this guy's, because when I first came out and I had the scars, I was like, oh my God, like the teratoma, not teratoma, the way my scars had healed, they keloided, and it was very strong keloid. It wasn't flat. It was very bumpy.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, geez. So when I went in for the third time, I don't know what he did, but he ended up making it so smooth and just very fine line. Anyways, they went in and they removed what they had to remove. I think they removed maybe like 6. He removed 6 or 7 teratomas.
Yeah.
And then they have to send them off for a pathology report.
Yeah.
And when they got the results back for the pathology report, I remember, like, they're like, oh, come into the office. And I thought that was weird because usually they give me the results over the phone.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, this isn't good. And then I remember when I sat down, like, my doctor came in, and the surgeon was there. And then I was like, okay, so what are the results? And they really try and, like, prolong everything. They're like, oh, we're just waiting on, like, someone else. I'm like, if you're waiting on someone else, I know it's bad news. Like, just give it to me straight. Stop making me wait.
Yeah. And
so another one of my doctors came in, and then they were just like, so what had happened was when they removed the teratomas, one of the teratomas had a partial transformation to a different type of cancer, which is called PNET. And I was like, okay. I'm like, but it got removed. And they're like, yes, it did get removed, but they're like, this might still be in your system. Like, there might still be cancer in your system. And, like, I had lesions on the right side of my lung too. And I was just like, okay. I'm like, am I going to die? Like, what does this mean? And they're like, we don't know, but they're like, we're sending you to a different doctor. We're sending you to a different specialist. He's going to look at you, and then you're going to have to go through chemotherapy again. And I was just like, oh my God, I got to do this again. So huge blow to, like, me, my family, because we had thought we were past all this. It was done. And then we went in to see a different specialist, and he was going over this PNET cancer. And he was saying that the chemotherapy drugs that they're going to be giving me are significantly stronger. It does work on the good thing is the chemotherapy drugs do work on this type of cancer. Mm-hmm. They are known to shrink it and reduce it. And it was just kind of like, but, like, he didn't really, he was just like, it might work, it might not work. And he's like, I don't know. And he goes, based on what he's seen and based on my results and everything like that, he's like, it doesn't look like it's spread to anywhere in his body. Like, it hasn't spread anywhere. He's in good shape. He's young. But, you know, at first they were like, he's going to have to do 24 rounds of chemotherapy. And I was just like, 24 rounds? Like, and so it was like, I was going to have to be on chemotherapy for a year. I was just like, holy crap. And so, of course, like, my mom's crying, my wife's crying, and like, I'm holding it together, and I'm just like, all right, like, here we go. Kind of got to, you know, roll with the punches. Got to, like, what else can you do at that point? Like, it is what it is. It's going to happen regardless. You just got to make the best of it. And, you know, here we go. And so then they ended up putting me on a different type of chemotherapy. So like when I went in for my first round of this type of chemotherapy, so what it was before I could go into Princess Margaret Hospital and they give me the chemotherapy for like an hour out of the day. So you go, you sit in the chair for like an hour, maybe 2 hours, you get the chemotherapy, you go home. Mm-hmm. With this different type of chemotherapy that I was on, I had to stay in the hospital overnight. So I had to stay for, on one of the cycles I was doing, like I had to stay for 4 nights in the hospital. And they were injecting me with like, the size of these syringes were like huge. They were size of like, they were massive. I can't equate of the size of these syringes.
They were like Regan's fingers.
Yes, if not bigger, with this red liquid. And I remember like, I remember laughing because I'm there in my regular clothes and they're injecting me with this stuff. And then when the nurses are injecting me, like they have a mask over their face, they have a full-on gown, and they're covered head to toe. And this is even before COVID, but they're covered head to toe. And I'm laughing, and they're like, "Why are you laughing?" And I'm just like, "You're injecting this drug into me that is potentially life-threatening. Here I am, like barely any clothes on, and there you are, you know, because if it touches your skin or something like that, it can lead to burns on your skin or abrasions on your skin. So that's why all the nurses are covered up." And I'm just kind of sitting there taking it just like, yeah, well, this is what I got to
do. So how many rounds do you do then?
So I started in August. And the weird thing about this was like, these are stronger drugs and this was stronger chemotherapy. And as I'm going through this, I remember I reached out to one of my wrestling kind of mentors and I told him about it. And I was just like, you know, I got to do this chemotherapy again. And he was just like, yeah, so. And I was just like, it kind of took me back. Like, I almost wanted that woe was me feeling, but he gave me that, like, you know, fuck this. You're going to beat it. You beat it once. You beat it twice. Keep going to the gym. You got to keep going to the gym. You got to keep pushing yourself. You got to keep going. And I was just like, okay. Like, it was the motivation that I really needed. Yeah. And it just kicked me into a different gear. And I remember, like, I went through the chemotherapy the first time and I came home, and the first day I was really tired and I slept, but I forced myself up and I was like, I'm going to go for a walk. I went for a walk, a nice long walk. I walked for maybe like 2 miles back, felt good. And then like, I just, every day I'd push myself. I went to the gym. I was, you know, pushing myself in the gym. I was still lifting weights. And I eventually, it was a little concerning to my doctors because I was starting to put on muscle mass while going through the chemotherapy. And my doctors were like they're like, what? Because my creatine levels were going up. Yeah. And they're like, what are you doing? And I was just like, they're like, are you taking creatine as a supplement? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, So you're shrinking me down to nothing, and I have to build myself back up again in 4 weeks' time before I go through another cycle. So I'm doing what I have to do to build myself back up. There's only so much you can eat. And they're just like, you're putting on so much muscle. They're like, you shouldn't be able to put on this much muscle going through this type of chemotherapy.
Yeah.
And they're just like, can you tone down your workouts a bit? And I was like, no, I don't think so. I'm like, I feel fine. And, this all ties into later on, but what they didn't realize is like my creatine levels were going up. Yes. You still there? Yeah. My creatine levels were going up. Yes, but so they use that as an indicator on your kidneys.
Okay.
And so when they think your creatine levels are going up, they think that your kidney functions aren't functioning at their highest percentage.
Okay.
So the biggest thing with going through like the chemotherapies is they want to make sure you flush it out of your system. So I was consistently being like injected with water and saline so that I was peeing all the time. And then they're like, when you're at home, you have to make sure you drink tons of water and that you're peeing a lot because they want to get all the toxins out of your system. So as that's happening, but I'm still going to the gym and I'm working out. So I'm working out and I'm putting on muscle mass, but putting on muscle mass can also increase your creatine because the bigger you are, the higher creatine level that you're going to have.
Right.
Because you have more muscles. So it doesn't necessarily mean that your kidneys aren't functioning. So I was going through this and I ended up every 3 months, I was having to go in to get a CT scan. And every time I went in to get a CT scan, nothing had changed. So like the lesions on my right side, they weren't getting bigger. They weren't getting smaller. They were still staying the same. But there was no signs of cancer anywhere else in my body, which was also good. And so, like I said before, I was going to have to do 24 rounds. And then my doctor, as I'm going through it, my doctor's like, maybe we'll only have to do 16. And I was like, okay, that's great, because from what he's seeing, it's working, right? Because there's no other cancer within my body. The big part was when I did the surgery on my last surgery, which was my fourth on the right side of my body. And when the pathology report came back, everything came back non-cancerous.
Okay.
So what that means is whatever was on my left side, that peanut, hadn't transformed into anything on my right side. And there was signs of no cancer on my right side, and there had been signs of no cancer throughout my entire body. But with I was, even after the surgery, I was still doing chemotherapy. So I in total, I ended up doing 10 rounds.
Okay. And were you wrestling at all during any of this or no?
Yeah, I kept up wrestling through all of it. And that's like, the drugs were stronger, but I was working out harder. I was pushing myself harder. And I remember sitting on my couch, and this is in August, and I had already been doing like the chemotherapy for probably I'd say I'd been doing it for 2 months now, and I'd still been wrestling here and there. And then I get an email from WWE inviting me to their Canada. So they were coming to town to do SummerSlam, and they were going to host a Canada date, like a Canada tryout for Canadians in the area. Actually, across Ontario, and across Canada.
So what year is it, Mike? What year is this? 18?
This is 2019.
19. Okay. Yeah.
Summer. Yeah, summer of 2000. No, I think it was 2018.
Okay.
Yeah, 2018.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. So summer 2018, and they invited me to do this tryout, and I was just like, at first I was like, I can't do the tryout. Like, I know what they try and do at the tryouts. They try and blow you up. You have to be in really good shape, and like I looked the part, but like my cardio was just not where I wanted it to be,
and
it was so hard.
But you're on chemotherapy at this time, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I remember I had told my wife, like, that day, I was like, hey, look what happened. And I was kind of like nonchalant about it. And she's like, oh my God, you're going to do this, right? And I was just like, I don't think so. I'm like, I can't do this. And then she's like, what are you talking about? She's like, this is what you've worked for your entire life. This is what you've wanted. And you're going to turn your back and say no? She's like, to hell with that. Like, you're not going to say no. You're going to bust your ass and you're going to go in there and you're going to do this. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, okay. And then I had talked to another one of my friends, and he's like, you have to do it, because he was invited to the camp as well. And he's like, we're going to train 3-4 times a week. And he's like, we'll go over all the drills. And he's like, we'll do everything that we can to get ourselves ready for this. And I was like, okay, I feel confident. And the good thing about, like, as strong as these drugs were for the chemotherapy, yeah, it took, like, they would get, so I would go through them, and then they would give me 3 weeks, about 2.5, 3 weeks to recover before they hit me with another round, because that's what they figured the recovery time was. And I developed, like, I had gotten to the point where, like, I could go a week later and I was feeling pretty good about myself. My energy levels were back. My strength was back. Cardio wasn't the greatest, but it was coming along. So I was feeling confident in that aspect. And when the tryout was, I would be kind of at my peak performance wise, because I'd be going on my third and a half week without any chemotherapy, technically at my strongest. So I felt confident in that aspect. So I had told my doctors about it, and my doctors wouldn't sign off on it. And they're just like, we don't recommend you do this. You shouldn't do this. And I was like, okay, but I'm going to do it anyways. And they're like, yeah, that's totally up to you. We can't stop you from doing it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do it anyways. And they're like, okay. They're just like, they're looking at me like I have two heads. They're like, you're crazy. Mm-hmm. And the big thing was, it was a 2-day tryout, and no, sorry. Well, yeah, it was a 2-day tryout, but I think it was a Thursday, you had to go in to do medicals, and you had to pass your medical to be able to participate. And so I remember going in to do my medical, and they're just like, oh, it says here that you stay, like, you have to be, and they're like, be honest with your medical. If you're not honest, we'll find out. And the big contemplation I was having going into that is like, do I tell them I'm on chemotherapy? Do I tell them I'm not on chemotherapy?
Right.
What do I do? And I remember, so the mentor that kind of pushed me to keep going and keep doing myself, his name was Rob Fuego. And he was a wrestler from back in the day, but he broke in with Edge and Christian, and he had wrestled at the same gym and was trained by the same person as those guys. Mm-hmm. And he was and he became good friends with Edge, and he had been showing my stuff to Edge, and he had told Edge about everything that was happening and what I was going through, and Edge is like, who is this guy? Like, this is crazy. And Edge had told him, he's like, just be honest with them. He said, it's like a job interview. You don't want to get caught in a lie right off the hop.
Yeah.
Because if you are caught in a lie, then it's just like they don't think you're trustworthy. If they can't trust you with a medical, how can they trust you to go in the ring and be safe with somebody else's body if you're already going to be lying about yourself? So I came straight out with their trainers, and I was just like, I'm currently on chemotherapy right now, if you couldn't tell, with my no eyebrows and bald head. And I'm going through cancer treatments. I've had this kind of surgeries, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, did your doctor say this was okay? I'm like, my doctors didn't really sign off on it, but this is something I want to do. And I was lucky enough that when so I tell this to the trainer, and the trainer looks at me and he's just like, you're awesome. You're the fucking man. He's just like, my wife went through Hodgkin's. My wife was going through this. He's like, we're going to make this happen for you. We're going to make sure that you're able to, do the tryout. We really want this to happen for you. And I was just like, that was like a sigh of relief off me. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And they're like, is your heart okay? I'm like, yeah, my heart's fine. And they're like, because the drugs that I was taking can have a significant impact on my heart.
Yeah.
And I was just like, my cardio's fine. Like, I've been doing this. And they were just like, okay. They're like, if anything, we'll monitor you, as the tryouts are happening. If you have to step out, you step out, whatever. But kind of, do as you will. And I was like, awesome. So they cleared me to do the tryout, and I was so happy for it. And then I go into the 2-day tryout.
And how'd it go? How'd you find it? Was it super tough?
No, yes and no.
Okay.
So I had been like, it was almost like I had been preparing for this for like 2 months in advance.
Yeah.
And I had been training in the ring 3-4 times a week, and I was doing my rolls, and I was running the ropes, and there's this one drill that they do, and it's the toughest fucking drill I've ever had to fucking do. So you're in a 20 by 20, and what they end up doing is they put like a body in the middle of the ring, like not like a human body, but just like a mannequin body or whatever, and they put or a sandbag in the middle of the ring.
Yeah.
And what you have to do is you hit the ropes, drop down in front of it, burpee over it, drop down again, get up, hit the ropes, drop down again, burpee over it. And you continuously do that back and forth for a minute. And it's to see how many you can get in within a minute. And then this is like one of their ultimate tests that they do to see how your cardio is. And it's like, if you can get 10 in a minute,
yeah,
that's considered pretty good. And when I was training, I was doing this, and I was training in an 18 by 18 foot ring, and I was doing it, and I was getting 10 in a minute, but I was gassed at the end of it. What they do at the performance center is like, you do that 3 different times. So like you do that in the first ring, and then you get out, and then you move on to the next ring, and then you do it again in the next ring, and then you do it again in another ring. Luckily for me, at the Canada tryout, they only had set up 1 ring.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, there's only 1 ring set up. The cardio, and there was like probably 50 guys there.
Yeah.
50 guys and girls. And I was like, there's 1 ring, there's 50 of us. There's no way they're going to be able to make us like do these blow up drills. So I was like, okay, like it just didn't work out mathematically.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's no way they'll have enough time to do this. But like just opening up with their conditioning, like to open up, there's a drill we do where you have to get up properly and then go back down to the floor. And you do that 20 times. So as we're doing the warm up, like the warm up was hard. You get a good sweat going and everything like that. But there was like 4 or 5 guys that were dropping out of the warm up.
Yeah.
And like they were going to throw up. Guys couldn't do the warm up. And I was sweating, but I wasn't out of breath or anything. Like it was just like, it was a warm up for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like I'm seeing other guys kind of bow out and like they're not in as good a shape as I'm in, and I'm going through chemotherapy. And so like in my head, psychologically, that's giving me an added bonus. I'm like, okay, I got this.
Yeah.
Like I can do this.
So how many did you do?
And how many, sorry?
How many did you do in the 20 by 20 when you had to do it?
So they didn't end up, they didn't make us do that drill.
Okay.
So like we were all, like a bunch of us were thinking like they're going to make us do this drill.
Yeah.
And they didn't make us do it. They focused a lot on rolls, which
okay.
I was good at and I was able to execute. And then a lot of it too, where they were weeding out was just, can you follow direction? Are you coachable? So an example is if you did a roll and you didn't do it properly, they'd be like, okay, do this and do it again. And if you didn't do it right, literally it's get the fuck out of the ring.
Okay.
And like people are like, oh my God. And it's like, they don't have time to waste in that moment. Like, so you're here for a specific reason. If you haven't trained and if you haven't put yourself in the best possible position that you could be in to be in that position, and if they're asking you to do something twice and you can't do it, you're not coachable. They see so many athletes every day, how they can't spend time on you if you can't do the basics.
So your training with Lance Storm obviously paid off, because there's people coming into the training center that are casually doing the wrestling thing. They can't follow direction. So I'm assuming that Lance ran you through all of that, and you like, it's not a basic thing. They want you, you're telling me that you need to actually be prepared and just like start running, go, right?
Yes, basically. Like they're not there to hold your hand. It's like, as cool as it is that you're in the same atmosphere with people that you grew up watching on TV.
Yeah.
They just like, I get it. They don't have time. It's a business. Like they're there to find out who is the next John Cena, who is the next Hulk Hogan, who's the next Randy Savage, who can follow these directions that we're giving them within a quick amount of time. And that also relates to like being in the ring, and can you follow direction in the ring when a referee is giving you time cues, or a referee is giving you information, telling you to take it home, telling you to do this, telling you to do that. Can you follow direction? And it comes down to, are you coachable? Yeah. They want people that are coachable. They don't want people that are going, yeah, but I can do, yeah, or it's just yes and go.
So what do they do so after you do the tryout, are you put in a system? How did you do? What's the future look like for you, do you think?
So like where I really I think I separated myself from the pack was on the last day. So like the first day, it was a lot of like conditioning and rolls and just drills that we were doing in the ring. Mm-hmm. But there's 50 of us and there's one ring, and it's like 2 people are getting in at a time and doing rolls and stuff like that. So there's a lot of time where you're standing around not really doing anything. So you have to keep yourself mentally focused. You have to keep yourself mentally ready. And you can't be like, as cool as it is that like, William Regal's there, or, Prince Albert he's the head coach. So he's there. As cool it is to be around these figures, like you have to think in your mind, you're here for a reason. I'm here to get a contract. I'm here to be a WWE superstar. This is what I want. Yeah. And so on the last day, how I ended up separating myself was on my promo. So on the last day, we did our conditioning drills, and then we did promos, and we had a match.
Okay.
And it was like everyone gets a 6-minute match. And when I did my promo, so it was funny because like on the last day, they're like, you can come dressed in whatever you want. You wear your gear. You can dress nice in a suit, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, in my head, I'm like, why am I going to dress nice? Like, they don't care if I'm in a suit or not. Like, it doesn't matter. So like a bunch of people all showed up dressed to the nines and suits, and I'm just like, why? Like, okay, you're gonna cut your promo in your suit, that's fine, but like, they want to look at a body, they want to look at something else. You're wrestling, they don't care like what you're wearing. It's not one of those like you have to show up to impress kind of things. So I worked on my promo the night before, and it was like, you have a minute to do a promo, and they'll give you a countdown. So the way it works is like, you're in front of the camera, they go 3, 2, 1, go. And then when you have, I think it was 15 seconds left, you get like a wrist up like this. Then you get 15 seconds. And then when you're at 10 seconds, they count you down. They'll be like 10. And then they'll kind of be like this, you know, wrap it up. And they call your name at random. And so I figured, how am I going to I have to tell my story in a minute without being cut off. How am I going to execute that? How am I going to do that?
Yeah.
And so like, cause there's so much to tell, and how do I get this into a coherent promo within a minute?
Uh-huh.
But I was able to do it, and I went over it, and I have very good memory, or like I have very good muscle memory.
Yeah.
So I can also ad lib on the fly as well.
Yes.
If I need to like throw in a different line here or there, I know I'm able to do it. So the way I started off with the promo is like, you know, not everybody, I said everybody has a different path to get to the WWE. Some are easier than others. Some face adversity. Adversity is nothing new to me. Fast forward to go back in time to 2012 when I was working the door as a doorman, and I got shot in a drive-by shooting. Did that stop me from pursuing my dream of becoming a professional wrestler? No. I continued my ways, and I can't remember the exact wording of it, but I continued persevering, continued going, and made my name on the independent circuit. Then adversity strikes again in 2016 when I was diagnosed with cancer. And at that, when I was diagnosed with cancer, and I was going through what I had to go through, and the whole time I started cutting the promo, I was wearing a shirt. And then as I get to like the important part of the promo, I take my shirt off and I turn my back to the camera. And I say, how did I word it? I can't remember exactly how I worded it, but I was just like, I've been like, you know, I've been shot. I've been through 4 surgeries, removing over 56 tumors from my body, going through 9 rounds of chemotherapy. And again, I did not stop. I was relentless in my pursuit to be here. I was relentless in what I had to do to prepare myself to be at this level. And that's when I realized, that's when, the way I tied it in the end was, when a kid looks at me, they realize dreams do come true. You just have to be relentless in your pursuit to follow them. And when I tied it off, like people were standing up, they were clapping, coaches were crying, other people were crying, and they were just like, and like William Regal shook my hand, Prince Albert shook my hand. They're just like, that was really powerful stuff. Like, that's awesome. And like, that gave me the confidence going into my match later on. I was just like, I just killed the promo. So they know I can talk.
Yeah.
So they know I can talk people into the building. Now the wrestling part is easy. Like, yeah. I know how to wrestle. I know what I'm doing in there. And if anything, they can, like, whatever I'm lacking or I'm not good at, they can help train me. Like, that was my mindset. And so they ended up having me wrestle another big strong, like a big strong man.
Yeah.
And he was from Montreal. He was a good guy, but he definitely wasn't like as athletic as I was, or yeah, little stiff. He's a strong man.
Yeah.
And it's also, you also have to take in, like, you're given a 6-minute match. They want you to do 6 minutes, and they don't want you to do like 20-minute WrestleMania. They want you to do 6 minutes. And like another one of the takeaways was, like, before we were doing our matches, William Regal comes up and he goes, I've seen Chris Benoit, Kurt Angle, Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero all do chain wrestling. Please do not start your matches off with chain. He's like, I've seen the best of the best do chain wrestling. And chain wrestling is where you're exchanging holds back and forth. And he's just like, please do not try to imitate or duplicate that, because you're not going to be as good as these guys. You're not going to be on their level.
Yeah.
And like anything that you try, it's just not going to be as good.
Yeah.
And he's 100% right. Like, it's not like, yes, there are guys that you see and emulate, but you're not going to be as good as them. Do you, and do what you're best at. And so I put this match together in my head, 6 minutes. I said it's not. And one of the things that the guy wanted to do was, like, he's like, oh, let's do the strongman stuff. And I was just like, it's 2018. Like, you know, Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant were 1987. We're 20 years removed from that. We don't need to do that stuff.
Yeah.
I said, plus that stuff takes time. It's a buildup.
Yeah.
I said, it's basically ding, ding, ding. You got to go in 6 minutes, and it's balls to the wall for 6 minutes. And the way I structured the match was just like, they already know I'm the baby face just based off my promo. Right. There's no way like, I can't come out after I cut that promo. I can't just turn around and be the heel now. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And so I'm just like, you got, like, to start it off hot. Like, you rush me, you jump me, beat me around. I'll turn it around on you. Then we'll go into a quick heat spot. We'll do heat. I'll do a small hope, and then, come back, finish. And he, like, the way I had structured it to him, he was just like, it was completely new to him, but it was good for me. And what they ended up doing in my match was they ended up giving time cues to the referee.
Yeah.
So we have, like, a personal WWE referee in the ring, and he's getting information fed to him by coaches. Mm-hmm. And they're like, tell him to do this, tell him to do that. And they're telling that to him, and he's relaying it to me, and then they're seeing if I can execute it.
Yeah.
So as the match is going on, I'm doing all the stuff that they're telling me to execute. And then the match ended up going a little more than 6 minutes, but I was able to execute everything they wanted. And then when it was time to go home, they're like, okay, go home. This makes sense. Take it home. Boom, hit my finish. The finishing move, I just did a crossbody off the top rope. Okay. Like, because I knew I could jump really high, and I knew I could land without killing anybody, but make it look impressive.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then again, standing ovation by the coaches. Nice. William Regal shakes my hand. Prince Albert shakes my hand, and I felt really good about it. And the guy I was wrestling, he's like, "Why did you keep doing more?" And I was just like, "These are what information they're telling me." And he's like, "Oh, I didn't realize they were giving you that." And so it's just like it's really an added bit of confidence, because, like, when you're on the independent scene,
yeah,
referees are just there, and, like, they're not giving you any information really. They're counting 1, 2, 3, but, like, this referee is like, he's like, "You guys are doing a great job. Keep going. Oh, Mike, you're doing great. Keep your head up. Pose to the camera. turn your body this way, turn your body that way, sell more, do this, do that. And it's just like, it's like having a coach in the ring with you. And so it takes a little bit of pressure off, and it was awesome.
So where is your resume sitting, on Vince's desk or Triple H's desk? Like who has it? What's going on?
Off that tryout, I ended up, nobody really got signed off that tryout. Actually, one person got signed off that tryout.
Yeah.
But with that person, he also had a UK passport, and he was from Australia. So what they were looking to do at that time was really expand their UK portfolio, because they have NXT UK now. And what I think they're trying to do is just like expand NXT across the world. So they're going to have NXT UK. They might do NXT Japan, NXT Australia. And in my head, I think they're trying to recreate the NWA.
Yeah.
Where you'll have all these different NXTs, and then you'll have a champion that goes around to each kind of territory and defend the belt, type of thing. Which is kind of a cool idea and a good creation. But I don't think they'll ever do like an NXT Canada, just because the border it's too close to the States.
Okay.
But as to where my resume is, they don't really give you anything from the tryout. So like basically you get a generic email that everyone gets, like, thank you for coming to the tryout. You're currently on the WWE radar. Unfortunately, we have nothing for you at this time. And I have a couple of friends that are currently in NXT, and I was able to reach out to them and ask them how I did, if they could give me any sort of feedback.
Yeah. And
they all said that I ended up doing really well. The coaches really liked me. They liked the fact that I was coachable. I'm an athlete, but they need to see more tape of me. They want to see more of me in the ring. They said I need to do more high profile matches.
Okay.
So I need to wrestle whoever the best of the best is on the independent circuit, and just try and get as many of those matches under my belt as I can. And because they'll see those matches.
Okay. So in many ways, it's kind of like MMA, like when guys are on the pro circuit, not UFC level, but they win their regions and they keep moving up, and it's like that's how they get noticed. Like Tristan is a prime example of that, right? He worked through everyone, he became the champion there, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, this is the guy. We'll now move him to the big leagues. Same thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like they're looking for, like, a big thing is like when they release guys and they come back on the independent circuit, like. Yeah. I have to be in tune with whatever promotion that is to try and get that match, and to try and go out there and just work guys that have been at that level, or guys that are on the cusp of, making it to the next level. That's how I'll get more notoriety and just notice more.
Well, I think what we should do is I'm going to put together a promo, but we should make a viral thing that Vince McMahon, Triple H, William Regal, Prince Albert, I'm going to tag all these guys. They need to give Relentless John Atlas a shot, because he has a fascinating story. He's true to form. He is an athlete that will keep going. So I'm not going to cut the promo for you, but I'm telling you, John Atlas is where it's at. So I love it, Mike. It's so good. So that's going to bring me to the next portion here of the podcast. So you've told your kind of story. You've done all the shit. So now we're going to talk about wrestling, its pedigree, and some things. Now, you talked about your finishing move. What's your finishing move that you typically do?
So when I was Playboy, the finishing move I did was the one night stand, but it was kind of a tribute to Shawn Michaels, and I did the super kick.
Okay.
And I've changed it since then, because everybody does the super kick and everybody tries to emulate it.
So we're talking about chin music?
Yes.
Yeah.
So like a lot of things that you'll see on the independent circuit is like people just throw away moves. So people will do super kicks just to do them. So how does your super kick differ from anything else that you'll see? So I'll have a match on a show, and I'll go out and I'll do it, and I'll use it as my finish. But then the match after me, they'll be using it right in the opening, like, oh, shoots them off, super kick, boom, and then they'll keep going. So it makes the move less impactful, and it really throws it away, and the audience becomes desensitized to it. And they're just like, okay, well, we've seen it before. Like, how is this any different? So I've recently changed it, and right now I'm working on doing like a version of a pile driver.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you a couple signature move questions here. Okay.
Okay.
I want you to tell me the wrestler that is associated with this move. Some of them are easy. Some of them are a little. Here we go. The mandible claw.
Man, Mick Foley, good buddy.
There we go. How about Styles Clash?
That's AJ Styles right there. The phenomenal one.
Yep. How about, this is attributed to a few people, so you can name any one of these, but the spear.
I'll go with the first person who I saw do it was Goldberg.
Yeah. Who followed up? Any other guys you can think of that do the spear?
Edge. Roman Reigns currently does it.
Beautiful. I love it. Roman Reigns is a relative of who?
Yokozuna and I don't know if if you're thinking The Rock, I don't think their bloodline is the same.
Is it through marriage?
Sorry?
Is it through marriage then? Because I thought they were related somehow.
I don't. I think The Rock has a different bloodline.
Okay.
Like the ongoing joke in kind of pro wrestling is like, if you're Samoan, one, you're awesome at wrestling, and everyone, like all the Samoans are all somehow related. Right. But like that lineage, like if you really look at it, the lineage is it's a bit different.
Okay. How about the Hurricanrana? Who is that associated to?
Rey Mysterio Jr.
Yep. Which wrestler made the ankle lock famous?
Kurt Angle.
Yes.
Olympic hero.
And before that, an MMA guy who did it as well. Do you remember? He was in wrestling?
Ken Shamrock, the world's most dangerous man.
Excellent. Who did the attitude adjustment?
Oh, you can't see me. It's John Cena.
There we go. Which big man in the WWF was able to pull off a moonsault?
Big man that was able to pull off a moonsault?
Big guy. Yep.
So just moonsault, like we're going backwards over the top rope.
Yeah. And we're talking 300 plus.
300 plus.
Yes.
He did this. Oh, Vader.
Yes. Oh, so nice. Okay, he's killing it. Okay, next one. Which wrestler, one of the most famous wrestlers of all time, the figure 4 leg lock, came out of?
Woo! The Nature Boy, Ric Flair.
Who attributed to another move, a big one called the Jackhammer?
Bill Goldberg.
Yes. One of our favorites, of course, the DDT.
Jake the Snake.
How about the F5?
Oh, Brock Lesnar.
Yes.
He's coming back to MMA.
Yeah, I know. The sharpshooter, obviously best Canadian out there. And who is that?
The best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be, Bret the Hitman Hart.
In 30 seconds or less, I want you to describe Bret the Hitman Hart's handshake.
Handshake?
Yes.
Firm. Yeah, I'd say firm. He gives a firm handshake.
But didn't you tell me that some wrestlers don't shake very hard? Isn't that?
Well, That was what Regan told me, and what it was that like they'll go for that limp wrist,
Yeah,
like because apparently back in the day, like if you came in with a firm handshake, like that was that was like the type of work you were in. Like, so if you came with a hard handshake, like, oh, he's stiff in the ring because you gave a hard handshake.
Okay.
But a lot of people frown on that. Like, if you're gonna shake someone's hand, you shake someone's hand like a man.
Got it. Okay. The frog splash attributed to who?
Eddie Guerrero.
Anyone else you can think of that used to do it?
Mr. Monday Night, Mr. Pay-Per-View, Rob Van Dam.
Fantastic. You're killing this, my friend. Pedigree.
It's time to play the game. Triple H.
Yes, the flying elbow, the original flying elbow.
Ooh, yeah. The
Nice.
Macho Man.
Who did the jackknife power bomb?
Big Daddy Cool Diesel.
Nice, Kevin Nash. Tombstone is attributed to, obviously.
Oh, the dead man who just retired, I believe. The Undertaker.
Yes, he did. Diamond Cutter.
DDP.
Yeah.
Diamond Dallas Page.
Okay.
They also stole a theme song from Nirvana.
He did DDP. Oh, I didn't know that.
Sorry?
Wow. Okay, two more.
Yeah, so when they were running WCW, he ended up using the theme song from Nirvana.
Gotcha. Sweet Chin Music is.
Shawn Michaels.
And the last one, the Stone Cold Stunner.
That Texas rattlesnake himself. Drop you on that stack of dimes. You call it next Stone Cold Steve Austin.
So, Mike Mizerski, you get 100%. You didn't miss one of those. So, what is considered, I hate to say this, but I'm going to put you on the spot. What's considered the worst finishing move in wrestling, in your opinion?
The worst finishing move in pro wrestling? I'm going to go with the sleeper hold.
Oh, interesting. Who is popular for doing the sleeper hold?
Roddy Piper.
Yeah, just shake them. You remember they get it and just do this and then to lift up the arm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, it was like 2 and then 3 and then 3 times the arm goes down. That's it. They changed the rule. It's funny the influence UFC's had on pro wrestling.
Yeah.
To make it kind of more legitimate. So they don't know. There's no longer like the three strikes you're out type of thing. It's like if you're rendered kind of like unconscious, they call it right there.
Yeah. How about the big leg drop from Hulk Hogan? Do you consider that a good finishing move?
It's the build up to the move.
Okay.
So it's Hogan hulking up. It's him doing the finger point, like, what's she gonna do? Shooting you off, the big boot, and like by the time he gives the big boot, the crowd is at their absolute peak.
Yeah.
And he just comes and drops the leg, like they're just ready. They're screaming.
Have you ever worked a match where someone's been stiff and they start shooting on you, or vice versa? Anything like that ever happen?
No. Like I've had guys like that have stiffed me, but like nothing to the point where like I couldn't handle myself, or nothing to the point where like a guy was like, "Oh, I'm going to shoot on him," or anything like that. No. Which
wrestlers that you've heard of are notorious for being rough in the ring?
Goldberg. He took out the Hitman with that kick to the head.
I always heard Bradshaw was.
I think it was with Bradshaw, it was about earning his respect. Like he was taking it seriously.
Yeah.
Like if you dished it back, okay, like that's just the way it was going to be. Like if you're just going to sit there and let him beat you up, he was going to beat you up. But to earn his respect, you'd have to kind of give it back. And if you gave it back to him, then you kind of get on that working relationship.
Yeah.
Then you kind of go from there. So I think like with a lot of those guys, it's about earning their respect. There's one thing, like there's the way about going about it. There's another thing about like just teeing off on somebody that's just giving you their body, which is just reckless and stupid.
Right. Who would you consider, like when you think of tag teams, there's been some amazing tag teams in the WWF and WWE. What are the top three that just come to mind and go, I just loved them?
Brainbusters, Heart Foundation, New Age Outlaws.
Okay. I was always a fan of, what did they call it? Was it the APA? Is that what they called themselves?
Yeah. Acolyte Protection Agency.
Their promos were so amazing. Them playing poker and stuff. I loved it. So good. Wow. Crazy. So that's tag team. So who would you consider the top three best wrestlers that have been in the ring in the last 30 years that just technically just really good to watch?
Define, what's your definition of wrestler?
I would say ability to actually know wrestling moves, the athleticism that they do, just the overall. I mean, there's big guys are great wrestlers, but they're not great wrestlers. I'm talking about the ones that are really able to move and just technically really sound.
Last 30 years, I'm going to put Shawn Michaels.
Yep.
30 years, that's a long time. I'm going to go Shawn Michaels. I'm going to go Hulk Hogan. And I'm going to go Bret Hart.
And so you're basing this on their knowledge of the ring and things like that, not just because I'm thinking people who are more like they talk about guys who are just like super, like really good in the ring, able to maneuver in the ring.
Okay, so you're talking like you're kind of looking at it differently than I am. So
yeah,
I'm looking like I put Shawn Michaels in there because he can in my opinion he can do it all.
Yes.
And he could probably still do it all. And he told great stories. He cut great promos. I put Hulk Hogan in there because I think he's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Like, he might not be technically sound, but he didn't need to be.
Yeah.
People bought tickets all over the world to see Hulk Hogan. Right. 85,000 people sold out the Silverdome to see Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. Yeah. So, like, when you talk about box office and big numbers, like Hulk Hogan. Yeah. Same could also be said, like, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Stone Cold Steve Austin sold tickets, and people wanted to see Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now, when he first started his career, he was actually a very good technical wrestler.
Yeah.
He was awesome through and through, but he had that neck injury where he had to change his style up, and he became more of a brawler. Mm-hmm. But as soon as the glass breaks, the crowd goes absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
And to have, like, I will never know the feeling of having 15,000 people eating out of the palm of your hand, but like to have that feeling, like, oh my God, it's quite a rush.
So out of those wrestlers that you've talked about, so I mean, I see where you're kind of going, how you think that they're good and stuff like that. Now the 80s obviously had a ton of great wrestlers. Some of them lasted a long time, some of them didn't. So a question for you, because you're obviously in the wrestling, and what's the most common injury you see in wrestling?
A lot of torn biceps.
Okay.
A lot of muscles being torn biceps, knee injuries. Knee injuries can be a big one too.
Yeah.
Even on the independent circuit, there's like, you see a lot of guys wearing knee braces.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd say
torn bicep
or. Sorry?
How do you protect yourself in the ring, like from getting injuries? I mean, obviously how you move is really important, and your partner as well, right?
Yeah, but it's also like knowing your limit and staying within it. Like you want to do this at the highest of all high levels, which whoever to anybody, that's different for everybody. But like, I think everybody gets into this wanting to either work for WWE or work for a top promotion where you're getting paid to do this on a regular. But so you have to conserve your body, and you have to watch the kind of risks that you're willing to take. Now, like I'm 6'2", 225. I'm not going to be going to the top rope and doing a moonsault to the floor.
Right.
Because one, I don't like that's a lot of mass. And two, I don't trust a lot of people to catch me. Like I think 9 times out of 10, I'm just going to end up splat on the concrete. And no, I don't want to do that. So it's just like, it's knowing risks. And like, you really have to be an athlete to do this. Like you can't be out of shape. You have to be able to go, because again, like the ring's a bit wobbly. So like if you take a step and if you don't have your balance, you could easily tear your knee doing that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just like, they think because they see it on TV, it looks easy. I'll dabble in it. I'll do it on weekends or something like that. But like, they're not doing it. They're doing it a disservice because they're not taking it seriously. They're not in shape. Yeah. They're not athletes. And you, like I said, you really have to be an athlete to do this stuff.
So if you were going to have a dinner party and you got to invite any wrestler you wanted to, 12 people, 10 people around a dinner table, and you're hosting, who are you inviting to that dinner?
How many guys do I get to invite?
I don't know. Let's say 10.
10? Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Bret Hart, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Vince McMahon, Randy Savage, Triple H, John Cena.
One more.
Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig.
Wow. There's one out of left field. Didn't expect that one. Well, I actually kind of did, because I can see where that comes. So there's your dinner party. Amazing. So Mike, you became a new dad recently, didn't you?
I did. September 29th at 4:43 p.m. I welcomed a new addition to my family. I have a lovely daughter, Brooklyn Paige Mizerski.
Nice. Well done. You've been through a lot, my friend, and you're going to continue to keep going. You definitely are relentless, and you're one of my most favorite humans. I love you to bits. I wish you the best success, and catching up with you is it's brought so much joy to me. I can't even tell you, buddy.
Oh, thank you so much. Likewise. Hopefully we can do this again, maybe a part 2.
I'd love to do a part 2. We'll get into it more. And maybe what I'll do is I'll ask the listening audience to send us some questions about wrestling and stuff. We can really go down the rabbit hole. That'd be super fun.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Okay. Well, everyone, this was Mike Mizerski, AKA Relentless John Atlas. I'm going to let him close it off here on the Torvus podcast. So take it away, Relentless.
Thank you so much, Ari, for having me on your podcast. Again, this is the Relentless John Atlas coming to you live. Let's do another part 2. Let's bring it home. Let's do it big. Let's do it bad. Let's do it proud. All right, Ari, I'll see you later, buddy.
Thanks very much. Until next time, everyone, remember, keep on geeking on.